Hello, I'm Jack Grady, and on behalf of the Archives and History Committee of the First Baptist Church on the Square in LaGrange, Georgia, we welcome World War II veteran Harry Cook, and we thank him for his service to our country and to our church. Harry, welcome this morning. So good to see you.
Same here, Jack.
You know, here we are on June the 6th, 2012, which is about 70 years since the beginning of World War II.
Yeah.
But yet, I'm sure you, like I and other veterans of World War II, we have vivid memories of those experiences that we went through. And I'd like just to sit with you a little bit and talk about some of those.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your willingness to do this, Harry. Harry, tell me a little bit about your enlistment process. Were you drafted?
I was drafted.
You were drafted, okay.
The day I turned 18, I registered to vote and registered for the draft.
Okay, registered to vote and registered for the draft at the same time. That's interesting. And pretty soon, things began to happen.
Oh, yes, very quickly.
Tell me about that.
Well, I was working for the Seaboard Railroad when I was a junior in high school.
Oh, you're already employed by a railroad.
Yes, it was easy to get jobs back then because of a lot of the men were in service.
Yes. When you were 17, you started working for the railroad.
It was earlier than that.
Oh, okay.
Maybe 15.
My goodness.
I was a very fast typist. And my older brother worked for the railroad, and they decided they needed some fast typists. And I went down and applied and got accepted right then.
Good. And then you worked for them until you turned 18.
Well, I got my first taste of the Union. The soldiers started back home. Came back home, I got bumped. I didn't even know what bump meant.
Oh, okay.
But I got bumped about 3 times, and I thought, it's time for me to go to college and better myself.
All right.
So I enrolled at the University of Georgia. But I got drafted pretty soon after that.
I see. Okay. Called up. And where did you go from?
I was inducted at Fort McPherson.
Fort McPherson. Okay.
And assigned for basic training and pioneer training at Fort Belvoir, Virginia.
Basic training, I understand, but you said pioneer training. Tell me about pioneer
just an
training.
Extension of basic.
Extension of basic.
Yeah.
More.
Maybe a little tougher.
A little more challenging, a little more involved. And how long did that last?
Not very long. Got orders to go to Japan.
Oh, okay. So you were being prepared for duty in Japan.
Yes. One of the things that happened to me at Fort Belvoir, I took ROTC in high school, was immediately made a squad leader.
Oh, yes. Okay. So they picked up on these assets that you had.
Yes.
And they put you to work immediately.
Yes.
In some key positions. The squad leader.
Yes.
Of your I started to say patrol, but you called it a squad. I'm thinking like a Boy Scout troop with a patrol, but this was far more involved than that.
Oh, yes.
Yes, of course. Much more responsibility as a squad leader. You did a lot of drilling, did you,
Yes.
in basic and in pioneer training?
Yes.
This pioneer training, though, is intriguing to me. Do you actually go out in the field and prepare tents and
Oh, yeah.
and that sort of thing? Learn how to live?
I had one experience where they had you go into the woods, one squad, and then the other squad was assigned rifles with live ammunition.
Live ammunition?
And at the time of the whistle, you found a place to hide because they were going to start shooting at you.
For real?
Yes.
Boy.
But didn't have to just put a mannequin, put your name on it, and if you got shot, we held funeral services.
A mannequin. So they simulated the real thing.
Yeah. Cardboard.
That is interesting. And this was in Fort Belvoir, Washington State?
No, Virginia.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why I thought Washington. Virginia. Okay. Belvoir. Yeah, okay. And then when you completed that, where did they send you?
Sent me home for 2 weeks,
2 weeks leave.
and then to Oakland for transport to Japan.
Oakland, California.
Yes,
You went aboard ship there. Was it a transport ship? Army or troop ship?
troop ship.
Okay. In Oakland. In other words, a part of the, I guess I think of it in terms of the Subic, not Subic, but the, I can't even remember what I'm trying to say now, but anyway, you were in the San Francisco Bay area.
Yes,
You were across the bay from San Francisco
yes.
in Oakland, and you went aboard ship there.
Was
Did you?
immediately signed to KP,
Oh, okay. Didn't waste
which is
any
the best
time.
thing that happened to me, because they say if you eat a lot, you don't get sick, and I didn't get sick.
Not any seasickness. Well, then you headed out, and did you know where you were heading? Did you know where you were
Only
going?
Japan. Didn't know what place in Japan.
But you knew you were going to Japan. Now,
Yes,
now this was immediately after the war, soon after the war.
yes.
And your unit was assigned to what kind of?
Third
unit?
engineers.
The engineers.
Third engineers.
Third engineers.
Third infantry.
Third infantry.
Yes.
Oh, okay. But now the war had just ended, and
Yes.
so you on your way to Japan. Would that have been part of the occupation forces?
Oh, yes.
Okay. A lot of unknowns at that time too, I'm sure.
Amen.
And you weren't quite sure what to expect.
Not at all.
When you arrived, how long did it take you to cross the Pacific?
Almost 2 weeks.
2 weeks on the Pacific in a troop ship with not only your unit, but probably a lot of other soldiers as well.
A ship prepared for maybe 2,000, and probably 4,000 of us.
Oh, Harry,
Extremely crowded.
my goodness. Twice the logical capacity,
Yeah.
I guess you could say. I served on a transport ship, and that's one reason I was interested in yours. But ours was a relatively small compared to apparently the ship you were on,
Yeah.
because we didn't have to do feeding like the larger ones. Maybe your ship was different, but some of those big ones, like you were on, I think, it was a continuous chow line. I
Yes.
mean by that, they opened up in the morning. Breakfast it took all morning to get everybody through, and then by that time they were ready to start over.
That's right.
And some of those large transport ships, they only served 2 meals a day. Was it like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on my ship, we served 3 meals. Typically, we would serve 3 meals a day. But we didn't have the masses of people that you had on that ship.
Well, 2 was enough for us, because most of them lost what they ate.
Oh, my God.
I didn't, thank goodness.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Never got seasick.
No,
while you were at
coming
sea.
or going.
Okay, 2 weeks at sea, and then you arrived which port in Japan?
Tokyo.
You went into Tokyo. Probably anchored out in the bay, or did they pull you up to a dock
Pulled us up to the dock.
and unloaded there? Okay.
And then we boarded a train.
Went on a train. So it wasn't a pleasure trip, was it?
No.
Tell me about it.
Well, our unit was assigned to the southernmost part, and they got fast trains in Japan.
Yes,
But the thing I remember most is we went through Nagasaki,
yes.
saw the destruction that the bomb did.
Oh, you saw the results of the bombing in Nagasaki.
Yeah.
Wow. Stands out in your memory still.
Oh, yes, always will.
A lot of
Bridges twisted like a paper clip.
a lot of devastation. The city, as well as I guess the outlying area,
Yes.
population, the people, it's a big city, wasn't it?
Yes,
And there it was lying in ruins.
hundreds of thousands of people died.
Well, Harry, what was your assignment there when you...
Well, when we got to our destination, they wanted to know if anybody knew how to type. And I was a very fast typist, experienced from the
Yes.
railroad.
Yes,
And I was immediately made the battalion clerk.
the battalion clerk, okay. They had already set up an office and everything there
Yes.
before you arrived. Okay.
I answered to the company commander.
The company commander was your supervisor.
Did all the typing and office work.
I see. Okay. And what were the duties of the other men in your unit at that time? They were out. What were they doing?
Different assignments.
Were they assisting the people in any manner?
Not to my knowledge.
But on a lot of guard duty, I guess, and that type thing. Because this was immediately after the war.
Yes.
It ended.
The place was devastated.
Yeah. And
Living conditions were horrible.
when you went in there, I'm sure there was a lot of unease as to how you're going to be
Oh, yes.
accepted or looked
You
upon.
couldn't leave the base unless you took somebody with you.
And this, what do you mean by somebody like a buddy system?
Yeah.
Two of you, at least two.
Yeah.
I see. It's really-
We had a few instances where they got in fights.
Okay. With the locals, with the local people.
Well, I guess with the Japanese veterans. A lot of bitterness.
So it was expressed then in the fighting sometimes by the people.
Yeah. Of course, some of our soldiers mistreated the Japanese, which I didn't like a bit.
Even though your commanding officer, I'm sure, was like others, they did not condone that sort of
Not at all.
behavior. And
Not at all.
And I'm sure you had several meetings and lectures when you were told
Oh, yeah.
that, reminded of.
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, the Japanese veterans, anything the emperor said was law, and they followed it. Most disciplined people I've ever seen.
Very disciplined, the
Yes.
Japanese people. And, of course, the soldiers.
Still are.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was an education in itself, I guess, wasn't it?
Oh, no doubt about it.
Human nature, as well as living conditions that you witnessed.
They were horrible.
Terrible, I'm sure. How long were you in Japan?
A little over a year.
A little over a year.
Truman released all the draftees.
Okay. President Truman. You know, he was a courageous president, wasn't he? Lived in a very difficult period of time.
Yes.
Served as president in a most challenging period of time.
Had to make more decisions than any president we've ever had.
And when he first came into that, found himself as president, which was at the death, of course, as we know, of President Roosevelt, he was pushed into that responsibility immediately. And
Yes.
he had to make horrendous decisions. Of course, he had good advisors, but he also was involved in the decision to end the war, wasn't he? And the war. He ended the war.
He
with
told
his-
it like it was.
He told it like it was. Very honest, straightforward person.
Yes.
Okay, well, it's good to be able to reflect on that now, even after all these years, and appreciate
He's
The
still
war.
my favorite president.
your favorite president. I can understand why. Well, Harry, we look back on those days and we know that we experienced a lot of things that we'll never forget, as you've said a while ago. But we also understand and appreciate the experiences that we had because they helped us as a young person to grow into maturity, sometimes maybe faster than we wanted to, because we got pushed into some types of responsibility that we would rather have not been involved in.
Well, somebody asked me once how I acted when I was a teenager. I said, well, during my young years, the Depression was on.
Yes.
And during my teen years, the war was on. I said, I never was allowed to be a teenager.
You just skipped over that period.
Yeah.
You became an adult quickly once you ended up there in Japan, I know.
Worked all my life.
Worked all your life. You were a manager of a large business.
Trucking line, Yellow Freight System.
Yellow Freight System. And was that in Atlanta at the time? Or somewhere?
LaGrange.
LaGrange. You came to LaGrange when?
I worked in Atlanta for many years.
And then came to LaGrange along about what time?
1976.
1976. Yeah, you have been here.
78, excuse me.
78. 80, 22.
32 years.
Yeah, 32, 34 years. Good. And, well, we appreciate the fact that you became involved in our church. You know, I know you've been very active in Sunday school and in other areas of life. And we appreciate that.
Well, due to my health, I hadn't been able to do what I'd like to do.
Harry?
Waited too late to join First Baptist.
Well, no, don't say that. You're never too late.
Of course, I was used a great deal at the church I was at before.
Yes, and you were a music director, weren't you? A song leader?
Yes.
In that church.
Was an elder.
You were an elder, and was that Lloyd? Which Presbyterian was that?
First Christian.
Oh, I'm sorry, First Christian.
Yes.
First Christian Church.
I joined the Christian church when I was in college in Oklahoma.
All right. And then you came to LaGrange. You got involved in the First Christian Church here.
Yes.
Were deeply involved in their music program. And then you ended up here. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, Pat and I always wanted 2 boys and 2 girls, and that's what we got.
Isn't that interesting? Your wife, Pat.
Yeah. Passed away
Yes.
3 years ago.
2 boys and 2 girls.
Had the girls first and then the boys. Since then, I've lost my oldest daughter.
Oh, yes. Yes. I'm sorry about that.
And my wife.
Right. Well, Harry, we thank you. We thank you for sharing that. I know it wasn't easy. Tell us maybe about one of your most memorable experiences that you had. I know you had a number of them in your service.
Seeing the destruction of the atomic bomb.
Oh, boy.
Never forget that.
Just burned indelibly, I'm sure, in your mind.
And of course, where I was stationed was bombed very heavily because it was in an industrial city.
What city was that where you were stationed?
Kawasaki.
It's south.
Kokuya Kyushu.
Okay. Kyushu.
I don't know how to spell it.
But you can pronounce it. Kyushu.
Yes.
Yes.
Southernmost
That's
tip.
the southernmost area of
Yeah.
Japan, isn't it? Harry, if that atomic bomb, those atomic bombs had not been dropped, you and I would have ended up battling, maybe hand to hand, or trying to dodge kamikaze planes that were diving into the ships.
Yeah.
It would have been more horrendous.
We probably wouldn't be here
That's true. Very true.
because they were on the verge of
Yes.
getting the
Right.
jets and the atomic bomb themselves.
Yes. That's true.
So it would have been horrible.
It would have been a horrible experience. And I know that President Truman, going back to him again, he understood that
Yes.
and decided that enough was enough. Let's end it. Well, Harry Cook, I thank you so much for your sitting and talking with me about this today.
Well, I admired the military very much. In fact, I was enrolled in ROTC in college and got my commission.
Oh, you did get your commission later.
Yes.
How about that?
I loved the military.
But you didn't go on into a career
No.
after that. But when you finished college, you were could have been commissioned at that point, I guess, but with your degree and with the ROTC background. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad you told me that. I didn't know about that. Well, Harry, let me tell you about this experience here, the recording and the interview process on behalf of our Archives and History Committee. We thank Paul Barnes for helping us do this. He's actually handling the equipment. He's doing the recording. And he's going to, of course, have a master copy of this on a disc. And from that, he will make several other copies. He's going to give at least 2 of them to the Archives and History Committee, and they'll be placed up in the Heritage Room of our church. And they'll be there for people to view next week, next month, next year, next generation.
Yeah.
People want to find out more about World War II and the people who served during that period of time. They can access those DVDs and those discs and find out how you and what you did, and how you did it, and we'll have a better understanding of what we went through during that period of time. We'll also have a copy of the disc and the DVD for you to keep. And you can share, of course, that you can share it with your family and your friends. So thank you.
I'm no war hero, but I did my duty.
You did your duty to your country, and your country is appreciative. Your church is appreciative.
And it makes me appreciate this country even more.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you. You're a good man. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Best wishes.